Ladies and gentlemen, I really have to mention this because it wound up just somehow, for some reason, I am always going to associate this movie with something extraordinarily negative. This is the Radulich and Broadcasting Network Movie Review Club. I'm Robert Winfree. Mark Radulich is here. Say hi, Mark.
Hello.
Yay. No, I said say hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
There we go. Yay, gags. We're reviewing Mission Impossible Rogue Nation here, and I have to explain this very briefly before we get into the movie. When I went to see this movie, I was sitting through most of the previews, trailers for coming attractions, and I was happy. There were a few very good ones. Michael Fassbender as Steve Jobs ought to be very interesting. Bridge of Spies is going to be, your typical Spielberg-Tom Hanks kind of collaboration, but should be entertaining. I saw a really awesome trailer for Spectre, which had me very, very happy. And then, the final preview before actually getting into Mission Impossible 5 was for Zoolander 2. Anyone who knows me, look, we have a lot of gimmicks, a lot of shtick on these shows that we exaggerate for the purposes of entertainment, getting across the gimmick and whatnot. Mark's love of heavyweights, Pat Mullen's hatred of Daniel Bryan, over on the Casual Heroes, Jed's racism. If you listen to the 411 Ground and Pound radio show, my hatred of Team Alpha male members and Uriah Faber in particular. These are things very much based in fact, but we exaggerate them. We blow them up for the purposes of entertainment. I cannot possibly exaggerate and overstate my hatred for Ben Stiller and his works. It cannot be done. So I was in a very bad place emotionally going into this movie. While Mark and I were sitting down before this show started, hashing out some of the rest of the schedule, and we looked ahead to February of next year, and right before the final countdown starts to bring us on live, what do we bring up? Oh, Deadpool and Zoolander 2 come out on the same day. There's some cosmic entity that forever wishes me to negatively associate Mission Impossible 5 with Ben Stiller. And it's just amusing to me. Pure chance. This was all blind chance. And somehow, every time right before we get into this movie, Zoolander 2, and it makes me want to shoot myself in the foot to feel less pain. All right.
Can I bring up something positive now that you've once again started us on the thorny path of negativity?
I have very little negative to say about the movie. I had to bring that up since it happened again. It was just too random a coincidence for me not to talk about.
I get excited every time I hear the Mission Impossible theme, and it's like my favorite part of any one of the movies or the television show. Like, there's just something about that theme, and there are variations on it. Some are a little faster, a little heavier, but basically it's still the same deal. And I always picture like Tom Cruise being like blown up from one of the movies. It might have been like the first or second one. There's just an explosion behind him.
It's actually the helicopter exploding and crashing into the tunnel in the first movie. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I can never get that. I can never unsee that. But I love that theme, and it gets me excited for a movie. Let me say this. I'm not a huge fan of the spy genre. I find myself saying, so the FBI knew that the CIA was setting them up with the DEA a lot of times.
Yeah.
I find them to be very convoluted. I find the villain, we talk about how Marvel can't get their villains right and how they have too little motivation. Jesus, in half the spy movies, the motivations for the villains are so convoluted, I can't figure out what it is they're trying to do. So I'm not so. Point. Well, no, this one I actually got and made sense to me. If you have a
was weak. I do. Look, the Mission Impossible franchise has generated one good villain, and that's because Philip Seymour Hoffman was an extraordinarily gifted actor.
But the point that I'm getting to with all this is, like, I haven't seen any of the new James Bond movies. I only watched the Mission Impossible movies after the second one because we did a Long Road to Ruin on it, and as it turns out, that franchise pulled itself out of the fucking gutter. But my point is, like, if we weren't doing a review series, I would not have gone to see Mission Impossible. there are certain movies, and Robert and I just kind of went over this whole list of what we're going to do next year, the rest of this year and next year. I actually have it on paper now. And there are certain movies as I've said before, certain movies I review because I really want to see them, certain movies I review because I'm taking my family to see them, and certain movies that we review because they command a large, or in theory should command a large percentage of the audience.
For some reason, we included Pixels in that particular category.
It's an Adam Sandler movie. And the
you
theory
did not
is
alter my statement at all, sir.
And in theory, he still commands box office. In theory, do I have to go over the numbers with you again?
No, we don't have to. It's okay. I'm depressed enough about humanity.
So my point is, if I were just going to see movies just for the sake of seeing movies, I wouldn't have bothered with Mission Impossible. And I'll tell you, I would have then missed out on a fun movie. I really enjoyed this one. My problem is, and I'm going to hand it back to you after I say this, my problem was once it was over, I thought, how the fuck am I going to review this thing? You put on Facebook today rather facetiously, I guess, Mission Impossible was definitely a movie. And that's the thing. I think it's the best one of the bunch, in terms of action, in terms of plot, in terms of, it not being convoluted. However, when I sit here and I think about how we dissect movies and craft and everything else, there wasn't anything really wrong with it. I don't feel like there's a whole lot to complain about.
My complaints are minimal, personally.
Yeah, I thought the movie was great, and it was exactly what you would want in an action spy movie. Plugs? I mean,
it was exactly it was exactly as expected, and it was perfectly adequate. I mean,
yeah.
There's very little in this movie worthy of glowing praise. There's also very little in this movie worthy of scathing criticism. It just kind of falls into a very happy medium.
Yeah, everyone gives great performances. I thought the plot and the story were interesting. I thought the plot and the story were interesting. I thought the villain's motivations made sense, and I loved all the action sequences. I dozed off a little bit during the first car chase, where they're at, I think, a party of some sort. And that has nothing to do with the movie. I was just way tired. I had just gotten out of the dentist. I was a little drowsy. But the movie had my interest when I wasn't physically exhausted. And the second car chase through Cairo, I loved.
Morocco. Casablanca, the city in Morocco.
Right. Sorry. Morocco, not Egypt. The opening sequence with the plane, which I guess we'll talk about for a little bit. But all of
that just seemed so tacked on. Seemed like it had nothing to do with anything other than we're going to hang Tom Cruise off the side of a plane.
No, it totally felt like, how can we open this movie, and really give people the bang of the buck? Well, what haven't we done yet? Well, we haven't hung Tom Cruise off a plane yet. But I haven't seen Jack Reacher because I don't buy all 5'1" of Tom Cruise as any kind of a badass. Like, if I've ever seen Tom Cruise in real life and I can get to him, I'm going to punch him in the face just because I can.
Stuff him into a locker.
Yeah. I'm going to give him a wedgie and call him a nerd. So the fact that he plays all these badass characters, I'm just like, fuck bullshit. But I'll give him credit. And I'm always about giving credit where credit's due. I'm not like some folks here as part of the network family, who will just bash things to bash them. That motherfucker hung on the side of a plane, and that was a real stunt. Now, granted, he was strapped on, and they were people ready to catch him. There was no.
He's not actually holding on by his fingertips as a plane takes off, because that would be stupid. But they actually strapped him to the outside of a plane, and the plane actually took off, and they filmed it 8 times.
Yeah, I mean, I give him credit where it's due. That is a hell of a stunt to pull off. He doesn't have to do stuff like that, and yet he does. And while I still think I could take him in a fight, he can have hanging off the side of a plane. You earned your man card, sir. I will not take that from you.
No, he's firmly ensconced in the club. No one's questioning Tom Cruise's entry into at the door. There are people who we do. There are.
Oh boy.
But no, I give credit where it's due. I don't see the reason to give credit as frequently as other people, and that's just me. That's where I happen to fall on that particular scale. All right. For those of you who haven't seen it, I will go ahead and run down the plot of this movie, so be aware there are spoilers. There's nothing to spoil in this movie, really. I mean, honestly, for a spy movie, there's nothing to spoil here.
I was going to say there were no real twists and turns. It was pretty straightforward. I think for my simple brain, that's what I liked about it. I wasn't sitting here going, "Wait, what the fuck? Wait, what? Who? She was working for him the whole time?" I mean, there was none of that.
Yeah, okay. The movie opens up with Tom Cruise being captured by a very shadowy, very secretive organization called the Syndicate that apparently he is the only one who is really aware of its existence. The Senate Oversight Committee into these sorts of things has decided to dissolve the IMF, the Impossible Mission Forces, and transfer all of their valuable assets to the CIA. Most explicitly, this includes Simon Pegg's character and Jeremy Renner's character. And Tom Cruise proceeds to, research and try to figure out the syndicate, where they are, where they're going. He eventually there's a big, there's a 6 months later gap in this movie right after the opening sequence. The rest of it is he is able to recruit Benji to help him on the technical side of things. Jeremy Renner kind of plays the CIA to get them to help. They're trying to track down the man in charge of the syndicate. What the heck was his name? Which ought to tell you how big of an impression he left. Solomon Lane, who is apparently just as evil as if you cross-pollinated Steve Jobs with Ernst Stavro Blofeld. I imagine that's how they arrived at his composite character. And he's running the syndicate. He's constantly a step or two ahead of Ethan. Ethan hasn't been able to catch him, and this frustrates him apparently to no end. There's a bit of a question about whether or not there's an agent who is working deep cover within the syndicate called Ilse Faust, who is trying to help them and is still loyal to the British secret intelligence, MI6 and whatnot. And there's a lot of, back and forth. How are we going to catch him? They finally find what he's really after, which is access to 2.4 billion pounds sterling, which is closer to 3 billion than not US dollars. Those of you not up on your conversion tables. Anyway, he wants access to that fund so he can begin wreaking all kinds of mayhem everywhere, and specifically apparently doesn't like the British government, even though that's a supposition made by Ethan Hunt, never actually confirmed by the opposing character. But hey, who needs character development when you have Tom Cruise who can sit in front of a camera and deliver dialogue? They eventually catch him and hand him over to the British, and he goes into a deep, dark hole that he will never escape from for the rest of his natural life. And the IMF is reinstated, and now Alec Baldwin's in charge. And that's pretty much all I got out of this movie, as far as, goes. Mark, did I miss anything?
No. I mean, like I said, one of the things I really like about it was that it was basically a straight up, it was a bank robbery. I mean, that's a gross oversimplification, but that's what this was about. I mean, the problem that I've had with other spy movies is that I walk out of them and I still don't understand what the villain was trying to do. This one was, there's money, a guy wants it, and he hatches a plot to get it. We introduce a female character who is playing both sides, and her motivation is that she wants out of, she wants to be pulled back in. She no longer wants to be a spy. We have the head of the MI6, I think it was his character, who wasn't supposed to start this in the first place and is trying to disavow all information or knowledge.
He's trying to cover his tracks. He doesn't want to be associated with it. No, there is no man behind the curtain.
Well,
thing.
he creates this monster that then goes crazy on him, and now he's trying to separate himself from it, which is at odds with what the girl wants. And at the end of the day, all Tom Cruise wants to do is bring down the bad guys. So, I mean, it was a pretty easy plot to follow. One of the things that I really liked about this movie, and one of the reasons why I gave it a lot of high praise, is exactly the kind of the reason I typically don't like spy movies. And this is coming from the guy who really likes comic book movies. I like fallible heroes. I like the fact that you can shoot and kill Spider-Man if you really have to. That you can shoot and kill Batman. There are things you can do to...
Considering how many times Batman has been shot, that statement holds no water, but your point.
Even Superman has at least one weakness, and that's kryptonite. And in the good Superman movies, it's been used. My problem with a lot of these spy movies, whether it be Jason Bourne, James Bond, Ethan Hunt, is they manage to have more superpowers than actual comic book heroes and evade death in ways that bore the shit out of me. There comes a point where so little happens to them that I'm just like, there are no stakes in these movies. I'm not really interested in this. It's just watching, it just seems to be one long exercise in masturbation for whoever the lead is. And everyone's a fucking ninja. That's the other thing.
See my gripes about Jurassic World.
The fact that they kill Ethan Hunt halfway through this movie, and he has to, and the fact that whole operation was snafu from the start, and then he dies and has to be saved by Ilsa. I thought that was great. If there was one thing that really caught my attention and drew me into the movie, it was that.
Well, I mean, come on. You knew she was coming to save him, but...
Of course. But, I mean, you have to suspend your disbelief in these movies. I don't. Normal people have to suspend their disbelief when they, in order to enjoy these movies. And it's so funny because it was almost a meta moment when Alec Baldwin was giving his brief to the Senate committee, and he's saying, like, it's amazing that you created havoc everywhere that you've gone, and the only reason why you've ever succeeded is luck. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Yeah. I'm with you, Baldwin. Give him hell, Baldwin.
Why would you ever support Alec Baldwin? Because Baldwin is, and first of all, Alec Baldwin is only ever Alec Baldwin. Let's not confuse him with the.
If anything, his character was close to what he played on 30 Rock, but I don't want to go through that again with you.
Which was just Alec Baldwin being Alec Baldwin, minus the angry rants at his daughter.
That being said, that sequence where he's trying to change the
security profiles,
the profile, so that Simon Pegg can get in and take what he needs out of the computer. I thought it was great. First he gets hit by the one arm of the thing, and then he's fumbling with the cards, and
I imagine if I hadn't been watching this at 10:45 in the morning with a bunch of elderly people who are getting ready to go to bed for the day, if you're watching this with a bunch of teenagers, they're probably trying to hold their breath along with Tom Cruise just for the heck of it and failing miserably.
Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that. I like the fact that he just barely gets it done and then promptly dies. And then she comes down and rescues, because she realizes he's down there too long. And she comes down there and rescues him, and then has to bring him back to life. I dug all that. And like I said, while I do realize that they're obviously not going to permanently kill Ethan Hunt midway through the movie, at least they killed him long enough to give the movie some stakes. I really felt like there was some tension in that scene that I have not seen in any previous Mission Impossible movie. So I enjoyed that. And quite frankly, I've never seen anything done like that in any of the James Bond or Jason Bourne movies either. Now, maybe my memory fails me and there's something that you can draw from your memory, but I just don't. I think James Bond might as well be fucking Superman. So
if we're going to discuss, James Bond and his relative infallibility, it's an odd discussion because there are so many different visions of Bond in different movies. Personally speaking, Skyfall, I felt, did a very good job of humanizing him and again, a lot of what he does throughout the opening portions of that movie are coming to grips with some of the physical toll that has been exacted upon him.
Okay, I'll tell you right now, I've never seen Skyfall.
You should see Skyfall if for no other reason than because Javier Bardem is freaking awesome. And he's the villain in that movie.
And I will be seeing and discussing Skyfall as The Long Road to Ruin will be presenting the Daniel Craig Bond movies a week before we review Spectre in November here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network.
Oh, Ben's going to have some fun with that.
That scene alone, like I said, I really enjoyed the opening with the airplane. We already talked about that. But I think my favorite scene...
It was so unnecessary in the grand scheme of things, and yet I couldn't help but kind of enjoy it.
Well, I mean, it's set up, but I think you say it's unnecessary. I think it's set up the next scene, which was, these people create havoc everywhere they go, and it's by sheer blind luck they ever get anything accomplished. And so you have a situation there where you have an agent who who succeeded in completing the mission, but by the skin of his teeth. And I think it was I think it was a great way to illustrate what Alec Baldwin's point was. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with you there, but I think, like I said, all in all, if I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, what's a great way to open this picture? Let's hang Tom Cruise off an airplane and then have him like parachute out with missiles or warheads or whatever they were.
Warheads, yes. Bioterror. Those were, they had the biohazard stamp on them. They were VX nerve gas, which is extraordinarily nasty stuff. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's awful.
I was into it, and then, of course, they played the theme, and the theme is great, and then we're right into these people suck and they should be, part of the CIA. I enjoyed, the scene where Tom Cruise gets captured. I like that scene, that whole sequence. It's, I think I was right there with the character, as far as you're watching you're watching the one girl get shot and you're feeling helpless and you're being gassed and there's nothing you can do. You're just trapped in this box. And I like the fact that at the end of the movie, that's exactly what they go and do to the villain. He tricks him and they end up putting him in a fucking box and gassing him. I was like, that's a fun way to end the movie. I enjoyed that.
It was a good way to do it, apart from the fact that even with, proper bulletproof glass, there's a repercussion for firing around at it from that proximity. It's going to bounce, it's going to fragment, it's going to ricochet around. It doesn't just impact and then fall to the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Science.
I'm sorry, I can't not pay attention to crap like that. I was fine with the rest of it. I got to that point, and it's like, fine, where are they going? Again, you want to have them shoot bullets to try and get out of the box, okay. But they don't just... that scene looked like he was firing blanks. I mean, I understand that he actually is firing blanks, but come on. That's not how that works. And it just bothered me a little bit.
I was caught up in the idea that I was caught up in the idea that he, that he was, hoisted by his own petard, and that he was firing the gun out of frustration, and I was just into that whole interplay between the two, that silent interplay between the two characters. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the fact that the bullets were basically ricocheted and hit him in the eye. This isn't a Ben Stiller movie.
Watch your tongue, sir.
Outside of that, just one other thing I have to. I give credit where credit's due. It's Tom Cruise hanging upside down and using the belt to sort of maneuver up the pole to escape escape nearly being killed. I was like, damn. I already know I'm not in
any Did he actually do that, or was that done with wires? Because if he actually did that, all kinds of kudos. If there's a wire, if there's a harness, Okay, not so much.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm assuming that he was actually able to do that, which is pretty goddamn amazing. Now, if I'm wrong and he did it with a wire, then you can throw that all out. But I was pretty impressed with that. I was like, damn. There are sometimes you don't need big giant explosions and crazy set pieces. Sometimes you just need to see something that looks cool, and that looked really cool. I was like, again, I still want to punch him in the face, but I'll give you all the credit in the world. That's a tough maneuver to pull off.
There's a couple of positive things I have to say about this movie. Most of the action sequences were fine. My big gripe, and this is not a huge gripe, and it's certainly not limited to this movie, I still feel like the narrative kind of gets either rushed or run over by the desire to get to action set pieces. And
okay, give me an example of what you're talking about.
Well, there's a whole theoretical subplot about Tom Cruise maybe having gone too far with this. Maybe he's finally met the guy he can't catch. Maybe he's snapped. Maybe he's too emotionally attached to this whole thing. And it goes nowhere. It's tossed out there and then ignored in favor of getting to a car chase.
See, I disagree with that. I feel like that was the whole thing that informed the conflict with Jeremy Renner's character, rather.
You can just say
felt like
none of these are legitimate performances.
Brandt, that's his name in the movie. I felt like there was conflict and there was some tension as to that was building as to would Brandt betray him or not, because he felt
was
like
never going to betray him to the CIA.
You don't know that.
I knew that.
Okay, I'm glad you can see into the future in these movies, and things are wildly obvious to you. But to us mere mortals, to us muggles, there was at least a will he, won't he, and that whole sequence where they get the prime minister and open up the red box or whatever the hell they were doing. That the reason why that whole scene works is because you don't know that Jeremy Renner isn't betraying Tom Cruise. You're led to believe that he is, and why are you led to believe that he is? Because in the scene prior to that, he was like, "You are a crazy person, and you're going too far." I thought all that worked and followed.
And maybe this is just to my personal taste, because I prefer things that are slower, more in depth, more thought out, more expressed on screen. And part of that is frustration because I like the idea. I like the thought of here's this guy in Ethan Hunt who has gambled. Yeah, when they say that he gets by on luck, there's a fair amount of truth to that. He has, gambled big and come up in the crucial moments every time so far. But this is a guy who's inevitably going to fail if he keeps relying on that same skill set. Luck, it doesn't run out. It's not a finite resource, but you play the odds enough and the odds quit falling in your favor over a long enough period of time. Him being obsessed with the guy who is maybe his opposite in that he is deeply meticulous with his planning instead of kind of on the fly is an interesting idea that is just paid lip service to and not actually expounded on from a character standpoint. And that frustrates me personally.
Okay, I mean, different strokes and all that. I just, like I said, I thought it was used enough to set up, to dig into some of the tension between the characters. I thought it was used as a way to give another layer to the Ethan Hunt character, because even towards the end, where they're trying to figure out how to get Simon Pegg's character, trying to rescue Simon Pegg's character. He's even saying to him at that point, their ruse has gone out the window. They are caught with their pants down when he gets captured, and they don't know what to do. And he's sitting there, and he's like, maybe this is what he wants to, and he's trying to outthink the villain. And Brandt's like, you're a nut job. You can't do what you're doing.
You're a loose cannon. You're out of control, and you're
right.
Lucky you're not on suspension.
Now you've gone too far, that kind of a thing. But he's able to win him. I mean, it's one whole sequence, and he's able to just win him over and say, "We're going to do it my plan anyway." So, I mean, I guess in that sense, I kind of agree with you. But that I thought it was fine.
You brought up Simon Pegg. I have to praise Simon Pegg, who is, I firmly believe, a somewhat underappreciated actor. I mean, he's known mostly for his comedic stuff. I mean, he's the comic relief in these movies too. But that scene where he's got the bomb strapped to him and he has to, speak exactly what the villain is saying to him, the way he's able to emote through that, I think he did a superb acting job in this movie, and I don't think he's going to get enough credit for it. So I have to kind of praise Pegg as an actor here because just from a performance standpoint, an absolute bright spot in this movie was the way he was Simon Pegg. I mean, just again, I've been a fan of the guy for a while, and he just kind of reinforced it here. So I have to praise Simon Pegg because he did a phenomenal job with relatively little screen time.
Let me add this to Simon Pegg's acting ability. I told you it was the Opera House. The sequence in the Opera House. Shortly into it, I could not keep my eyes open, and I dozed off a bit. And so I missed a lot of the action in that sequence.
Yeah,
I woke up when he was screaming at Tom Cruise. He's a CIA field agent too, and he knows what the
risks.
He knows what the risks are, and that and that he needs to trust him and allow him to help him take down the syndicate. And Tom Cruise is like, okay. And I swear to God, him screaming at Tom Cruise woke me up from like a dead sleep. like nothing, there's all this action on screen. I'm like, drool,
It's very sedate action through there. There's a lot of quiet fighting and sniper battling, so it's understandable why you'd miss most of it.
Sorry.
There is an explosion, though. It's a minor explosion.
But then, him yelling at Tom Cruise and them having that argument, literally just like, I'm like, what? Like, oh, well, you're mad about something. Like, movie. Oh, yeah, I got it.
How did I get here?
Where are my pants?
Where am I now? And why does my foot hurt?
All right. That's really it. I like the fact that he doesn't necessarily get the girl in the end. That she just kind of goes off.
He's still married to Michelle Moynihan in this movie. He can't get the girl.
Is he? We didn't know he was married. I've already forgotten about it.
Yeah, his girlfriend from 3, who is supposed to be dead in 4, but is actually alive. He faked her death to kind of keep her out of that life, and is seen at the very end of 4. Unless something changed and she is no longer a factor, then he can't get the girl because he's still involved.
I don't see where that has anything to do with anything, but continuity-wise.
Hedonist.
Forget about it. You can just forget about all that. No, but honestly, I didn't remember that. It's not like I rewatched any of these in that detail.
I haven't rewatched them. I just have a stupid memory for detail that I kind of wish I didn't at times.
People are learning that about you, Mr. Winfree.
Hey, I can quote Tremors from start to finish.
Your parents must be very proud.
I'm a startlingly high disappointment.
Okay, easy. This is not the Winfree biographical show either. So I honestly didn't remember that detail, but regardless, I kind of like with Pacific Rim. Sometimes, in the will they, won't they? I'm kind of glad when they don't. I get sick of every movie ends with, the guy and the girl in a warm embrace. I like the fact that she got what she needed. She got out, the syndicate got taken down. She got out of it. She's able to just go on and live her life and not be a spy anymore. And she was like, hey, if you want me, you know where to find me, or you know how to find me. And they just, and everyone just kind of goes their separate ways. I'm like, okay, good. I like the way this ends, And then, of course you have, again, Alec Baldwin and Jeremy Renner going back to Congress and this saying, please reopen the IMF and, welcome to the IMF, and off they go. That was a nice way to end the movie.
Yeah, there was a good sense of full circle narrative here in this with this movie.
Yes, there was.
I appreciate that. That's fine.
Just one last thing as far as things I liked. I liked I liked the final fight sequence with her and the main thug, and the knife fight and everything. I thought there was a sufficient amount of tension. Granted, she's a spy, and obviously she's aces in hand-to-hand combat, but you have no other reason.
She also could die. I mean, let's face it. You know who you're not killing off in movies like this, and she's not necessarily on that list.
Right. Well, the thing, like I said, I think if you're just watching the movie and you're not purposely, well, this person's safe, or I know what's going to happen here, and just sort of letting yourself be in the moment. Obviously, your logical brain goes, they're not going to kill off this character. Those stranger things will happen in the movies. On the other hand, she was in a sufficient enough amount of danger that I was at least involved in. I mean, this wasn't Anakin Skywalker versus fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi, where the only thing that was cool about the lightsaber duel was doing it over lava, which at least is interesting. This one you actually felt, hey, this person seriously messed up here. And when they have the sound effects of them actually making contact with the knives, I was like, okay, I get it. That hurts. I'm into it.
Well, not based on the fact that she got sliced a few times and nothing was ever made of it. But what are you going to do? It's not a perfect movie. You can only complain so much.
She has a fast healing factor, like the X-23 clone of Wolverine.
Let's not bring that up.
Okay.
Because there are people who listen to this, and one of them is going to think it's a good idea.
Okay. That's it. Here's my summation of the movie. It was a great spy movie. I think it's the best of the Mission Impossible series. It was definitely a pleasant surprise because I kind of walked into this going, well, I said I wanted to review it, so I guess I'll go see it. But it ended up being one of those where I was glad I did. And that's it. It's probably in the top 5 or 6 of the summer. I'm not going to say it's number one. I think, like I said, Avengers had more heft to it, but it's up there. I would say it's up there with Fury Road.
Honestly, I would rate it highly, and part of that is more by default. We have not been graced with a bunch of good action movies this summer. I mean, I actually thought about it after this movie and where I might, rank it amongst, what have we seen this year? How do the action movies and so on? And we've not seen anything that has been, just absolutely spectacular. I mean, much as I enjoy Fury Road, and I very much do, and I find it to be, very rewatchable even. You've had, again, one, and I suppose, you and I both kind of enjoyed Age of Ultron, but it certainly wasn't, gangbusters. It's just not been a great year for action movies thus far. And if for no other reason than by comparison, this movie fares very well. It has very, again, there was only one bit in the action that I kind of rolled my eyes at. Well, 2 that I rolled my eyes at and went, it doesn't work that way. One of them, as previously discussed, was him shooting Lex and Glass at point blank range and there being no visible effects. Again, there's a projectile, it goes somewhere, people. That's how these things work. The other was at the end of the car chase in the car portion of the chase in Casablanca. Because they go off over a cliff in reverse, not a cliff, but a drop in the street. Very quickly, it's a substantial drop. They hit and wind up flipping end over end 4 or 5 times, and I wound up just it doesn't work.
I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one, if only because of the way that they shot that, and they had Simon Pegg laying in the car. I thought he fucking broke his neck.
He should have.
I was like, first of all, y'all are dead. Okay. Second of all, one of you at least broke your neck.
Yeah, that's and again, it speaks to the rest of the movie that I didn't feel that way about pretty much anything else.
No, I like the car chase scene enough, and I thought they did. Though I kept thinking the entire time, I'm like, huh, Fast and the Furious International, the Fast and the Furious starring Ethan Hunt.
That's not an inaccurate comparison. But
He was
then they
doing
get
a
a
lot
motor.
It's like now they need to bring in Vin Diesel.
No, they don't.
By the way, just as a complete aside, on the latest episode of Movie Fights, it was cast your male reboot of Ghostbusters. Here's mine. You ready?
Sure.
Jim Parsons from The Big Bang Theory. He plays Sheldon.
He's
okay,
awful.
now watch this. Now watch what I have him back up with, right? Terry Crews. Terry Crews. Oh God, who else? Oh, Keenan from Keenan and Kel. Keenan, who's now on Saturday Night Live. The fat black kid.
I am
Kenan
aware
Thompson.
of his existence. Yes.
So Kenan Thompson, Jim Parsons, Terry Crews, and Michael Williams, otherwise known as Omar from The Wire. And I want him to play Omar in the movie. Like, I literally want that.
He got shot in the head by a kid.
I understand that. I don't care. I literally want, even if they just do it once as a gag, I want to go to somebody to yell, to whistle and yell, Omar coming. And I just want, and again, he's like, there has to be a guy who's just doing it for the paycheck. That's him. That's all. I want him to be this fucking hood, ridiculous character, ridiculously violent character who's only a Ghostbusters for the paycheck. And nothing bothers him. No matter what they see, no matter what happens in the movie, he's just like, whatever, man, and just blast them with the Ghostbusters equipment. That's my Ghostbusters recast. Jim Parsons, Kenan Thompson, Terry Crews, and Omar. Jim Parsons.
I got nothing. I honestly have nothing to follow that with. I don't think I could.
Hollywood, if you're listening,
that's a horrible idea.
We need an almost all-black Ghostbusters. This is going to work.
We don't need that, just like we don't need an all-female version of Ghostbusters.
We need Jim Parsons.
It's a horrible idea.
We need Jim Parsons as the Egon character interacting with tough black people. That's what we need. America demands it.
No, I don't think America does, Mark. I honestly don't think anyone but you would come up with that combination of people.
In the original iteration of this idea, I didn't have Kenan Thompson in it. I had either Kevin Hart or Ice Cube,
which are both also awful ideas.
Okay. Any last words on this? And I think we should talk about the schedule. Since I have my wife sitting next to me, I want her to hear it.
All right. Real briefly, I have two minor gripes, and one of these is just me. Your title wound up playing no part of into your movie.
Boo!
No. Look, and I'll admit, just me. But it seems like when they started writing this movie, the concept of rogue nations was kind of being bandied about in the media, and they thought, hey, that sounds cool, let's put it in here, and then didn't bother looking up what it actually meant. Okay.
I think the word nation doesn't belong, but obviously rogue went both ways. They started an agency full of dead super agents that went rogue, plus you have Ethan Hunt, who goes rogue in order to fluff out the syndicate.
Yeah, again, it's the combination. It's everything that Rogue Nation carries with it as a statement that was just completely and utterly ignored, likely because it sounded cool but didn't actually fit with the narrative.
That is so the definition of nitpicking.
Hey, didn't I just say it was just me? I freely admitted that.
Okay.
Second, I thought the villain was weak.
Again, I can get, he doesn't do much of anything, but at least I thought his motivations and his plan made sense.
I appreciated his plan. Again, here's funds from the British government that's untraceable that I can get my hands on to perpetrate evil. I should do this. It makes perfect sense. He just has very little menace to him, is on screen for an extraordinarily small amount of time, And from both a visual and kind of a conceptual perspective, I feel like they said, if we took Steve Jobs with Blofeld from the James Bond series, what would we get? And we got this guy. He's got the hipster glasses and the turtlenecks, and he runs an anti-spy organization. And again, if you combine Steve Jobs with the character of Ernst Stavro Blofeld from the original James Bond movies, you get this guy. That's how I feel they came up with him, and it felt weak.
Here's my only gripe with the villain. Yet again, the only people that we can make evil in the movies are white or robots. Like, we can't have black villains, we can't have Muslim villains, we can't have Asian villains. Every villain has to be European white or American white, and that's it. It's like,
wait. Are we now complaining about all movies in general? Because I have disagreements with that, or do you just mean this franchise?
I would say most movies.
I'm going to somewhat disagree with your assessment there, but...
Well, name one.
Jim and Hansu.
Who?
Jim and Hansu in Furious 7. Black African warlord.
Oh, yeah.
I gave you one from this year, even.
All right, fair enough. All right, anything else?
Let me see. Complained about the villain. Title not connecting. Again, seriously, the franchise has delivered one villain who didn't suck, and that's because Philip Seymour Hoffman was a very gifted individual. All of the others have been...
But I think that says something about movies these days. You know, and I think you need to talk about this on your podcast at length. And that is, movies are, Marvel being a great example of this franchise being another good example. And that is, they focus so much on the hero, they focus so much on the action that they end up minimizing the villain. And that instead of focusing on the villain and really fleshing out what the conflicts are, what the motivations are, and layering the villain, it's just the villain is sort of a plot point to move the action forward, and they don't serve any other function. And that's wrong, Robert Winfree. That's wrong.
It is. It is deeply wrong. It's one of the reasons I'm so looking forward to Spectre, because Sam Mendes has a serious handle on how to craft a fleshed out villain. I hope you're right. If I didn't have faith in Sam Mendes, I have faith in Christoph Waltz.
Fair enough. Oh, is he in the movie?
Yes, he's Blofeld, and I know that doesn't mean anything to you, but...
Yeah, I don't know who Blowjob is.
Blofeld, he is the guy behind Spectre. If you watch any of the original Bond movies, he's the evil guy stroking the cat.
Yeah, okay, that doesn't... I don't know who Handjob is, sorry.
You depress me greatly, sir. Donald Pleasance was him, and You Only Die Twice. First ever in every... He was played by someone different in every subsequent time, but come on!
Speaking of depressing...
Jaws either, I have to remember that.
Speaking of depressing, our next review... Next week, baby. I've heard that the origins of It's Clobberin' Time is what Ben Grimm's drunken dad used to say to him before he gave him a beating.
I can't express how bad an idea that is.
This is what my friend told me today, that he did some reading about reviews. Number one, this movie is going to suck on ice.
This movie is so bad. They've placed a moratorium on reviews.
I think until tomorrow. I think that's when the reviews are starting to come out. And I can't wait for the reviews of this movie. But I'm taking my daughter anyway this Monday. We're going anyway to go see this piece of crap, and you and I will review it Wednesday. And I know you don't drink, but you might want to consider it. Me and you might need to consider drinking during this review.
I will not take up alcohol for anything, sir. I think the world would be so much better off without consumable alcohol. It's not even funny.
Well, whatever you need to get through this whatever you need to get through this review, whether it's causing yourself physical pain or having Paige cause you physical pain or whatever you need to do. But I can't imagine we're both going to be able to get through this review sober.
I get the feeling that The Adequate Four, also subtitled, "Hey, look, it's the Human Torch with friends," which is the impression I get from every preview of this movie is, "Hey, look, it's Johnny Storm and Associates."
Yeah, honestly, I think it's like Hollywood. The only one that they understand is the Human Torch. They might as well just make the Human Torch movie. All right. So,
but anyway, that's an instance like Pixels where our review will be more entertaining than the movie.
So that's next week.
Which I've heard from more than one person, by the way. That's not me tooting my own horn. That's people have said to me, we were better than that movie.
Our review of Pixels was better than Pixels?
Yes.
Hang on one sec. Melissa, what did you think of Pixels?
I liked it.
Give me 50 words.
It was cute. It was a dumb Adam Sandler movie, and I am a sucker for a dumb Adam Sandler movie. So, of course, I like it.
There's your $1 million right there, folks. All right.
Never mind. Not going to say it.
Nobody ever said I had taste. Look who I married.
That's what I was going to say.
You're welcome.
Don't mind her. She's drunk.
I only had one.
In the last hour. You and your drunk mother.
I only had one.
Mom
drank a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
I had a root.
My mother-in-law finished a bottle of wine by herself tonight, but that's not what I came here to tell you.
All right. We wanted to hash out the rest of the schedule. So again, next week, Fantastic Four, the Fantastically Bad Four, the flop of the summer, whatever you want to call it. Mark and I are going to be on here reviewing that next week. The week after that is going to be Mark and Jed from Casual Heroes. What?
Yes. I said straight out of Compton, yo.
If you feel compelled to attempt to impose various cultures not your own onto your speech patterns, so be it.
That's how I talk, man.
That is not how you talk, and I certainly know that.
Don't front. Don't be ill.
Yeah. The English language should not be butchered to that extent, sir.
Oh, man,
not by you, not by anyone.
Listen, man, I said at dinner tonight, all you white people look alike anyway. Did I not say that?
Yeah.
All humans look alike. We're boils on the ass of existence.
All right, so here's the lineup, and I purposely told my wife, who was dying to go to bed, to sit down next to me so that I could read her off this list. Okay, so September 25th, the only movie we're doing in the month of September. Hang on, I just got huffed at. What's the problem?
My birthday's that day before.
That's when the movie comes out. We'll figure out a time to go see it.
No, I don't want to see that. That is not how you're spending my birthday.
You don't want to see Hotel Transylvania 2?
Oh, I thought it said Transformers.
You're drunk.
No, your handwriting is that bad, and your wife's response to another Transformers
fucking
movie is...
you asshole!
I'm not.
Her response to a Transformers movie is completely accurate. No one should want to go see it.
All right. Anyway,
Fine. Hotel Transylvania 2, I do want to see.
I thought so. Relax over there for a moment. So September 25th, Hotel Transformers 2. And then October 9th, and I'm taking October 16th off, and Robert will be reviewing Crimson Peak with Who the Hell Knows. Now, October 23rd is going to be a fun one. Okay, folks? This is going to be the first ever Radulich and Broadcasting movie review split 7-inch. Okay? My wife and I and kids are going to go see Gem and the Holograms.
God help you.
Okay. No urge to see it.
Okay, apparently me and Lily are going to see Gem and the Holograms, as my wife just gave me the fart face.
It's going to ruin my childhood.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I was obsessed with Gem. Gem was my favorite thing in life.
Okay, I thought you wanted to see this.
No, it looks horrible.
It's awful. It looks awful.
It's my childhood.
Well, skirt then. I'll just take Lily.
Yeah, take Lily.
All right, so Lily and I are going to be going to see Gem and the Holograms. At the same time, Robert Winfree and Who the Hell Else Knows will be going to see Paranormal Activity 5, The
Oh,
Ghost
you're not
Dimension.
going to go see that?
No, because I'm a big fucking pansy.
You really are. By the way,
Those movies aren't even. Again, the first 2 are scary. Everything after that is just kind of meh.
No, Mark has been terrified of these movies since he did something with them earlier, and is convinced that one of or both of our children are possessed by a demon.
That was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, we still have this conversation.
All right, fair enough. Clearly, it was an effective movie if it is scaring Mark many years later.
Well, yeah, one never. Well, yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna on the same show. I'm gonna review Gem and the Holograms, and Robert is going to review Paranormal Activities: The Ghost Dimensions, and we're gonna see how that goes. November 6th. Now, a week before November 6th, Long Road to Ruin. I have to put this on the calendar. The week before November 6th, Long Road to Ruin will do the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, Quantum of Solace, Casino Royale, and Skyfall. The following week, we will review Spectre. Now that same week, the Peanuts movie comes out, but we'll find time to go see it. And the following Wednesday, we will review the Peanuts movie. So November 6th, Spectre. November 13th, the Peanuts movie. Now, these dates are not the dates that we're reviewing them. These are the dates that the movies come out. I'll go back and put the actual dates for when we're reviewing the movies when it gets a little bit closer. But for right now, November 6th is when Spectre and the Peanuts movie both come out. November 25th, The Good Dinosaur, the next Pixar movie. And then we have 2 more movies. December 18th, Star Wars, The Force Awakens. And then Christmas Day, it comes out. I obviously won't be seeing Christmas Day or I'll get divorced. But that weekend, we will be ending this 2015 with The Hateful Eight, the latest Quentin Tarantino movie.
On your own.
So does this list meet your approval?
As long as I don't have to go see some of those, yes.
Okay. But, I mean, there are certain ones I put on here for you. Like Hotel Transylvania 2.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Peanuts movie.
That's for your daughter.
And The Good Dinosaur.
I don't even know what that is.
Are you going to go see Spectre with me?
Probably because I always go... Wait, what is Spectre?
That's the new James Bond.
Yes, because I always see James Bond movies.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Because good James Bond movies are awesome.
I am a lifelong James Bond fan, so...
So I should have been having my conversation comparing this crappy Mission Impossible villain to the unholy union of Steve Jobs and Blofeld with your wife. She would get it.
Except I didn't see Mission Impossible, so.
But now I've described the villain, and you don't need to see the rest of the movie.
Yeah, but I don't think but my wife doesn't pay attention to that shit. She doesn't know who Blowjob is either.
No, I do.
Do you?
Yes.
Thank you. That's why I just again, if she's to fans of James Bond, they know who Blofeld is.
Okay. But everyone.
That's who they spoof for Goldmember and Austin Powers.
Was that who they're also spoofing in Inspector Gadget?
Yes.
The headless guy who's supposed to be fat?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's Blow Up Doll. Got it.
You don't get it, but whatever.
All right. Speaking of things I don't get, plugs.
Theoretically, there will be an edition of Everyone Loves a Bad Guy this coming Friday. I'm not sure what I'll be doing. I wound up taking last week off after the timely passing of Roddy Piper. Instead, I relinked the episode of Everyone Loves a Bad Guy that Pat Mullen and I did specifically talking about Roddy Piper July of last year. And live, we had kind of a favorite memories of Piper thing with myself, Mark Radulich, Larry Zonka, and Pat Mullen. Both of those are available in the archives of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. So I will most likely have something this coming Friday. I'm not sure there's anything topical. You get mad at me if I tried to do that early. So I'll have something this Friday. The week after, so next Friday, I'm doing a look at the Fantastic Four villains because the movie is going to suck, and I want something good to remember about that particular intellectual property.
There you go.
I also, for those of you who don't know, did a solo cast with, well, not solo, but myself and Pat Mullen specifically talked about Dr. Doom a couple of, late last year, I want to say, or early this year. So you can find that in the archives as well, and you can listen to that and figure out that Doctor Doom is an awesome character, and this movie is going to drag it into the street, violate it, and shoot it in the head. Because he's now a whiny internet blogger.
It's going to be terrific. Terrific.
Oh,
awesome.
It's so bad. This is going to be Mystery Science Theater 3000 bad, folks. This is Tommy Wiseau's The Room bad.
If this movie is not, I mean, I didn't hate Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland just had the most narrative problems of any movie that we saw. It was definitely the biggest swing and a miss in terms of trying to get across an idea in a feature-length film. But by no means did I not enjoy Tomorrowland. I still enjoyed it. It just, when you look at it critically, it has the biggest gaping holes of any movie we saw this year. Fantastic Four should be worse. Fantastic Four should literally be not just a bad plot, but like poorly acted. I should come away with nothing positive to say about Fantastic Four. For all of you who say that I'm like super positive about movies, like overly positive, if I have anything good to say about this movie, I'll be surprised.
And you all know me by this point. I say positive things about movies when there are positive things to say. I'm just a very critical individual.
You ain't kidding, Buster.
It's how I see the world, and I can't turn it off. I've tried. I can't.
So eventually we'll finish with Orange is the New Black, but yesterday I was not available to do it. I don't think Sean thought we were doing it tomorrow, so I'm not sure where Sean's head was. But instead, From the Cheap Seats is back since football season is starting. So they had a show last night. Tomorrow night, we have another Metal Hammer of Doom. We've had several in a row just because that's how the schedule ended up working out. And we'll be reviewing the new Lamb of God. Next Thursday, there's no show. There's nothing going. I will be at an NXT taping at Full Sail University, which I'm very excited about. So we won't be getting to the end of the Jack Ryan series until after that. But go ahead and check out the previous week. There was a Metal Hammer of Doom that was happening while I was at an NXT house show, and that was just Jesse Starcher and Robert Cooper. Hopefully next Tuesday, like I said, we'll finish up Orange is the New Black, and then no more Tuesday shows for me until Jessica Jones comes out on Netflix. I think that's...
Oh, I'm so worried about that.
I'm not. In Marvel, I trust.
That's a horrible motto.
They haven't let me down yet.
That's not strictly true, but okay.
Oh, look, the Young Bucks are on Ring of Honor.
I hate the Young Bucks.
You hate everything.
I do not hate everything.
So, all right. So that's all the plugs that I've got for right now.
Hate is the wrong word. I just don't care much for the Young Bucks. Anyway, this Saturday I will have live coverage of UFC Fight Night 73, St. Preux versus Teixeira. Yeah, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel. What?
In Nashville.
Yeah, because you see, Owen St. Preux was he played football for the University of Tennessee, right? So you see, that's why he's
sense.
Yeah, they're grasping at the straws there. It's actually not a bad card. Michael Johnson is facing off against Beneil Dariush in the co-main event. I'm looking forward to that one. Sarah McMahon and Amanda Nunes ought to be good. There's some good fights. So I will have, again, I'll have your live coverage over at 411 Mania in the MMA section. Stop by, say hello. I'm hoping that this won't be as bad as UFC 190, which was an awful event. I swear, I thought about it today. Thinking back on it, there were some fine fights, but none of the fights were great. It was paced atrociously, and just it was an.
Not for me. I saw what I needed to see and then napped.
Well, good for you. I had to stay awake for the whole thing from the first prelim to the main event.
Well, that's your problem. That was over 7 hours. I saw Big Nog versus Stefan Struve and promptly went
awful.
Betty by.
Awful fight.
I woke up at some point during Little Nog versus Shogun Hua, and then
That was
I watched
a good first round, followed by two rounds.
Then I proceeded to watch Ronda Rousey punch Betch Korea right in the mush.
And thank God for Ronda Rousey deciding she wanted to be out of there in less than a minute. Because I swear I could not have tolerated a fight in the main event of that card that went out of the first round.
Incidentally, they're talking about Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo, and then Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate 3. And they're hoping the combination of those two fights, they can sell out the new Cowboy Stadium, the AT&T Stadium is what they call it. But for the purposes of this conversation, the Cowboy Stadium.
It seats 100,000 people. For those of you who don't know.
But I mean, but apparently Cyborg is now pissed off enough that I honestly think they should reconsider and say, look, if you'll sign the contract that says you can make 135, just book that fight. Book Ronda Rousey Cyborg for opposite Aldo McGregor, and I actually think the UFC will sell out the AT&T Stadium.
I'm not sure they'll get 100,000 fans with those two. I'm not
bringing a lot of people with just Cyborg Rousey, quite frankly.
Ronda Rousey's opponent is irrelevant at this point.
Not if it's Cyborg. That's the fight everyone wants to see.
And that's the fight all the hardcores want to see. And they're going to see it anyway. You're not adding appreciable value.
No, I disagree. I think Miesha Tate doesn't add any appreciable value.
No woman fighting Ronda Rousey adds value. This fight with UFC 190 is tracking to do over 1 million pay-per-view buys.
It would be the first this year.
Yes, it would. And again, Betch Kohay is nobody. She's freaking nobody. Borderline top 5 in the division. Borderline.
That's a lot of bodies to put. I mean, pay-per-view buys are not bodies.
I'm aware of that too. That's why I don't think they sell it out. I think they could do a very good accounting.
I think with what they're planning right now, they don't sell it out. But if they can get Cyborg in there,
I don't think Cyborg brings anything new to that table.
Okay, if you put Cyborg's not her Muay Thai fights, because that's a whole other thing, and she also lost. But if you put Cyborg's fights against Rousey's, you have the same highlight reel. You have one person mauling people in less than a minute. You also have, you have Ronda ripping people's arms off or knocking them out in less than a minute. I think the promotion of, the two most vicious unarmed females in the world going head to head finally at 135, I think that brings in.
Don't bring that. I swear I am so. Honestly, the fact that the UFC is refusing to allow Ronda to potentially move up in weight after having obliterated her division is just asinine to me. They're absolutely refusing the biggest fight they could possibly make for no legitimate reason.
I mean, not for nothing, but the reason why Cyborg shouldn't fight at 135.
If she can't make the weight and compete at a high level, she shouldn't have to make the... When was the last...
Well, a lot of that's muscle, though, and a lot of that's muscle she put on using steroids.
I don't care how we got here. That's not the point. That's not the discussion.
But again, the weight class in the UFC is 135. She can make 135 if she'd get off the fucking gas.
She hasn't failed a drug test in 4 years. Now, take that however you will. Don't get me wrong. I'm not naive here.
Yeah, Alistair Overeem didn't fail a drug test for a long time either.
And look, with respect to that, when was the last time any fighter ever was pressured to move down in weight?
Frankie Edgar.
Okay, that people cared about.
No, you can't say that. You know what? End this podcast, sir.
No, seriously, though. Frankie Edgar, he chose to move down to featherweight once they introduced the division.
He didn't. After he lost the lightweight title, Dana White basically put a gun to his head and said, "You will move down to featherweight, and I will sweeten the pie by throwing you in the cage in your first fight with Jose Aldo."
I don't believe that's accurate, but...
No, that's how it went.
I'm pretty sure the discussion was more, okay, Frankie, you're never going to get another lightweight title shot as long as Benson Henderson is champion. If you go to featherweight, we can get you in the title scene right away, though.
No, Dana White had been saying for the longest time that he thought Frankie Edgar should move down to featherweight. He had been talking about it for a while, and Frankie Edgar refused to do it. And then he lost a second fight. That was a lot of what the controversy was over, and even having that rematch was because as soon as he lost the title the first time to Ben Henderson, Dana White was like, "And you should move down to featherweight." And he was like, "No, I should get a rematch, seeing as I gave everybody and their fucking mother a rematch in the last year."
That poor guy. Frankie.
He's like, "All right, touche."
Okay,
so,
well, allow me to slightly rephrase the question. Then, when was the last time a dominant champion was pressured to move down and wait for a super fight?
John Jones.
No one ever said John Jones should move down to middleweight. Everyone said John Jones should move up to heavyweight.
They were saying Anderson Silva at middleweight.
No, they were saying Anderson Silva at 205, and he was no longer champion at that point anyway. Now, the point is, in the long history of combat sports, the number of times a fighter in the position that Cyborg is in has been pressured to move down in weight is negligible. The discussion should be about Ronda moving up.
But again, this is like the Alistair Overeem thing. Only the weight you're that way because you cheated. Now, honest, you're not going to look. Alistair Overeem doesn't look when he first see Strikeforce champion. He looked like Adonis, Strikeforce champion, Brock Lesnar. He goes all on the gas. You look at him; his body shape is much different.
You're also talking about a guy who is well over 6 feet tall and has weighed in excess of 200 pounds, I'd venture to say, his entire adult life.
He a lot less than because he was close to the 260, coming in and close to the 265 mark when he was on the. So again, with Ronda on this one, there's no reason. I've look at the differential between the two of them. There's no reason why she can't make 135. She's not a dude. If she's down some of that muscle she doesn't need in the contest, she can make 135.
I'm saying it shouldn't matter. Ronda should have no problem going back. She fought at featherweight for the first 7 fights of her career. Her bantamweight debut was crushing Miesha Tate's arm.
Again, she made it. It's not Jack.
The point is,
Ronda's.
I don't consider. The point is, I don't.
She's done with. Yeah.
I don't think the weight argument is a valid argument for why this fight shouldn't happen. I don't think. Really, is there some reason we can't do a champion versus champion catch weight at 140 pounds?
I would even accept that. That's fine.
Again,
I think
the UFC
no
has
belt
thrown up obstacles to stop this from happening for no reason other than they appear to be terrified Ronda will lose.
Part of it is there's a good chance that Ronda Rousey gets her head beat in if when she fights. I mean, Cyborg, her way of dealing with a lot of her opponents is run straight at them punching, and she hits so hard that that a lot of them crumble before they even are able to mount any kind of a defense. So I can only imagine what that would look like against Ronda. Now we've all said, the day that Ronda gets hit hard in the face, let's see what she's made of. Okay, at this point, I'm not going to argue that Ronda folds like a cheap suit if she gets hit in the face. But still, I think I think the day that even if she wins against Cyborg, even if she's able to take an arm with her, she's going to get hit hard. A lot of her mystique is going to get taken away in a fight with Cyborg. I mean, unless it's one of these crazy 30 seconds you lose, Cat Zingano kind of things where it's a 30-second blitz and and she gets arm barred. It's like, okay, well, I guess that's out. I have a feeling this is going to be her top fight, as it should be. And so the UFC has a lot more to lose. I mean, Ronda Rousey's career is going to go on regardless. She's obviously, she's much like The Rock in that she's a good get. for any Hollywood project right now. That's not going to change even if she loses to Cyborg. But as far as her being a marketable competitor, she loses to Cyborg, a lot of her mystique goes right out the window, as is her drawing power.
I somewhat disagree with that, but again, a lot of this, and I was listening to, I think it was Luke Thomas who talked about this, a lot of the people who insist that Cyborg has to come down to 135 is them projecting insecurities and wanting Ronda to have the best possible chance. And honestly, I don't care what weight they fight at. I think Ronda wins that fight easily. So
okay, but again, for everyone that cried that Overeem needed to get off the gas and compete honestly, why are we making different rules for Cyborg?
She hasn't failed a drug test in 4 years. I mean,
and neither did Overeem.
So are we now basing the assumption that someone is or isn't on steroids based purely on their physique? Is that where we've gone with this?
You're going to look me straight in the eye, which is funny because you can't. We're on a computer. But you're going to look me straight in the eye and tell me, first of all, she did do steroids.
I'm not saying she didn't. I'm not at all saying she has never done them. That's absolutely not the case. Again, she hasn't failed a drug test in quite a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Alistair Overeem failed, his first 2 in the UFC. There's a substantial difference.
Well,
and Alistair Overeem hasn't failed a drug test since.
I thought there was only one drug test, and it was an out-of-competition drug test that they had to chase him down for.
Oh, he had severely elevated testosterone when he beat Lesnar. I mean, there was legitimate discussion about whether or not that result should have been overturned.
Oh, I vaguely remember that. So this has been a fun little addition to this movie review, our own little mini 401 Ground and Pound show.
Which you can hear every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come back this coming Sunday. Myself and Jeff Harris will be reviewing UFC Fight Night 73. It's just that, actually. The next week we'll be previewing whichever one comes next. There's one that comes out. It's another fight night, so it would be Fight Night 74. I forget who headlines it, so my apologies there.
I'll tell you in a second. Hang on. Googling.
All right.
List of UFC events. They just made a whole bunch of fights tonight. Robbie
Lawler and Carlos Condit in Australia, I saw.
Yes.
Which makes me happy. Johnny Hendricks is going to fight Tyron Woodley, which might stop time as we know it.
Okay, so the next one is in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. And that's Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira.
Oh, yeah. I like that fight. I really like Holloway and Oliveira. That'll be fun.
And September 5th is Johnson versus Dodson 2, which has on it a pretty good card, actually. That one's got...
I don't care about Miran Arlovsky.
I do. I'm excited for that one. You got Fat Anthony Johnson.
Andre Arlovsky's going to lose in the first round, and then he's going to commit suicide.
Anthony Johnson versus Jim Manunoa.
That is the definition of a get-well fight for Anthony Johnson.
Jan Blachowicz versus Corey Anderson. Paige Van Zandt, Hottie Two Pants over there, versus Alex Chambers, who's not a bad looker herself. Cisco Rivera versus John Lineker.
They're continuing to build Paige Van Zandt because they think they have something with her.
And Joaquin Phoenix versus Nazareno and Malaga.
That is not either of their names.
It's hardly the issue here.
All right. So anyway, that's what's coming up here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for putting up with our nonsense. We go off topic here from time to time, so thank you for that. If you like the show, feel free to share it with people. We appreciate that a great deal. We're trying to build this thing here. We're trying to build a network.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Mark Radulich, MarkRadulich.
All right. You can like us on Facebook, which is probably the best way to get consistent updates, including a bunch of links to all of our shows that have come up that have happened in the recent past. That's just Radulich and Broadcasting on Facebook. We're the only ones with those combination of words. So like us, And you can, again, get all of our updated information there as it becomes available. Plus, you get pictures that you don't get anywhere else. So there's your incentive.
There you go.
And you can also follow us on, again, subscribe on Blog Talk, iTunes, Stitcher, all that good stuff. Share us with your friends in real life, social media networks, so on and so forth. Trying to grow this thing, and if you know someone you think might enjoy it, let them know. Spread us around. We appreciate it. All right, again, next week, the fantastic / adequate / awful / failure for. I'm going to come up with something that I like by the time that review rolls around. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to find something. So anyway, that is next time here. So until then, for Mark Radulich, I'm Robert Winfree, reminding everyone out there to be well, be safe, and behave. And for some reason, here's Hail the Apocalypse.